So I want you to guess. You've probably seen a glimpse of it. I want you to try to guess what my coffee mug says this morning.
Well, I'm going to guess that it has a picture of Mario on it and quotes from 3 different games. That's my guess. Just completely off the cuff.
Okay, you're sort of right. Okay, it says Zelda is my favorite Pokemon from Call of Duty, but it has a picture of Mario on it. And it's ridiculous.
I love that.
So it's funny.
Oh, I should have had my video. I have a video game mug.
Yeah. We'll see if when we start doing video, we can start showing off our funny video game mugs and other things. And that'll be so much fun. But anyway, it's a fun mug that I like to, when I'm in the gaming mood, to have in the mornings, because it's fun to have coffee before the gaming in the mornings.
Of course.
All right.
Of course. It's always fun to have coffee.
Coffee. Speaking of coffee, I was watching a very old How It's Made on YouTube from the History Channel about the origins of coffee. And it's just like, wow, how did we as people figure out how to do coffee? And just someone was like, hey, I'm going to roast it instead of just eating it. And hey, I'm going to roast it and then filter it through water and then see what happens. It's just crazy what people did.
And then we got all fancy with it and started putting foam on top, writing our names in it and stuff.
Right. And then,
that was probably prehistoric. They got some like mammoth milk and whipped it up.
Oh gosh.
Put it on top.
It'd be called Tusk Bucks or Star Tusks.
Star Tusk.
Welcome to Pause Button with Storytime Gamer and Bob,
a weekly podcast covering gaming news, reviews, and all things geek.
I'm your host, Storytime Gamer, also known as Eric, and I stream a variety of games on my YouTube channel, StorytimeGamer.com, with a focus of story-driven games, role-playing, and horror. I also love anything from the 80s and 90s pop culture.
And I'm Bob, bringing you games you can chill to. Survival crafting, factory management, and open world RPGs. Anything you can play while listening to a podcast, an audiobook, or watching Netflix.
Send us your thoughts, ideas, and reactions to emails at pausebuttongaming.com. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, you always have the latest episode for when you need to step back from life and press pause.
All right, let's get to the show. It was a slow week for gaming news, maybe. It was a busy week for me, work-wise. I got very little gaming time in. I did try to stop. I got probably an hour, maybe 2. I think I got 2 hours in this week.
Yeah.
Juggling between my 2 games I'm playing right now. And I did try to check out some news. But yeah, it was a little light for me this week.
Yeah, news was surprisingly horrendously sucky. And you know why? What's coming is coming week. You know what's coming?
Is it Gamescom?
Gamescom. So the next episode's going to have a lot of stuff to talk about, I imagine. We might I think the whole episode's going to just be about Gamescom, unless it sucks.
Oh yeah.
But that's
well, it won't suck.
It's just a very slow, very, just like we just talked about. There was a desert for video games. This was like a desert for video games and video game news. It's like no one had anything to report. It was depressing, but we have some things to talk about. Of just interest, nothing like, well, actually, there's one piece of news that I thought was kind of world crippling, but no one's really crying about it or throwing their hands up and like, why? It's the Lord of the Rings rights were sold this week.
I saw that. It's weird.
Yeah, it's been owned since 1976 by the people who bought it was the Embracer Group. And they've been slowly buying video games and stuff like that. But Middle Earth Enterprises used to be a division of the Saul Zentes Company, a Hollywood production studio from 1976. They managed to pick up the rights to pretty much everything to do with Tolkien except publication of the books themselves. This is a news article from Kotaku. So so from everything we have known since 1978, Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, it's all been from this one company. So like Warner Brothers, who was like, we have all the Lord of the Rings. No, they don't. They just kept buying the rights for it. Amazon, their show that's coming out, has just bought the rights for it. So ultimately, Discas, the Saul Zance has always had the power, but now it's a new group, the Embracer Group, and they bought it for, I think it was like $2 billion. Let me find that.
Seems low.
You would think that, the smart thing to do with like Amazon or Warner Brothers would have just went ahead and bought it because they could see how much money. Yeah, $2 billion was how much it was sold. Well, actually, sorry. That's how much the original company was advertising it for, but the Embracer Group, who's now the owners of it, they bought it at a price that's not disclosed in the announcement. So what makes me worried is that, okay, right now we've got Rings of Power coming out in September. The Hobbit, no, not The Hobbit. There's an animated movie called The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, that comes out at some point in 2024. And then we have Heroes of Middle-earth, which is a mobile game. Plus we also have that stupid, awful Gollum game that I just refuse to acknowledge. So that's already in the works. That stuff's already in the works. And these guys are thinking, and I quote, they want to explore other opportunities, including exploring additional movies based on iconic characters such as Gandalf, Aragorn, Gollum, Galadriel, Eowyn, and other characters from literary works of J.R.R. Tolkien. They're going to try to Marvelize this as much as they can, I think. And then they're going to make the...
And you're not excited about that? You don't want an Eowyn open world game... where she
game would be
rallies
fine.
A Rohirrim.
That would be fine. Grand Theft Middle Earth.
Oh, it does say movie. Yeah.
Grand Theft Middle Earth, or I don't want young Gandalf's story. Unless it's...
Why not? I do. I want young Gandalf's story.
If it was animated by the group that did Into the Spider-Verse, I'd be okay with it. But if it's like live action and hear me out. Here we go. Here, if you want to play into fantasies, it's live action, but it's got oh god, why am I blanking out on his name? He played young Magneto.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about? Young Magneto.
Yeah. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Fassbender, Michael Fassbender. If he is playing a younger Gandalf, that I'd be on board. Unless they they wait too long and then he's actually as old as Gandalf was in the first Lord of the Rings, and then we're kind of screwed. But
yeah, what's interesting about this universe is Star Wars has a core story, then they have the prequels where they kind of flesh out the core story, and they've kind of done that with Lord of the Rings, right? Like The Hobbit was the prequel, they kind of told that. There's not like an ecosystem of characters and stories that like people relate to. Now they could create it, right? I mean, like they're doing now, I guess, with Star Wars. They're like, hey, here's a new character that's in the Star Wars universe. But everything in Lord of the Rings revolves around this giant war with Sauron and the ring thing. So I don't know. Like, hey, get creative. But at some point, it's just a fantasy world, Are the characters compelling enough? I don't know.
They might have to start.
I'll give them a shot.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens. They might have to... I want more video games, honestly. More RPG, more...
Yeah.
Something, I think, in the video game realm. If we had more of those Shadows of Mordor. Because Warner Brothers actually owns the rights to that Nemesis system. So there's a problem right there.
Yeah. Did you play that game? Shadow of War? No. Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War?
I have them on my backlog, so it's like I have to be in the right mood. So maybe when the Rings of Power series comes on, I'll be like, I want to go to Middle Earth, and then I'll pick it up.
I'll tell you what, Shadow of War is a great example of how they told a story in the Lord of the Rings universe that didn't really have anything to do with the larger war. They created a character. It was that game. I played it through start to finish 3 times. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's got the Nemesis system. It's got that Warner Brothers kind of combat style that you see in Batman and Mad Max. God, it makes me want to play it again. Yeah. Fantastic game. But that's a great, hey, do that. They did that a decade ago, Can they flesh out some other characters?
I don't know. What they need to bring...
Not Gollum, without Gollum.
Though. What they need to bring back is actually the really good movie franchise adaptations of Two Towers and Return of the King games, because those were like side-scrolling beat-em-ups, sort of hack and slash. Those were great games. It's like you can't play it unless you have an old system, which is frustrating as as I'll get out.
Yeah, modernize those things.
Oh yeah. Just no microtransactions. That's all we ask. Another thing I saw, so Sony's Spider-Man got remastered on the PC. That's been out for a while, and it's good reviews. You know, it looks great. Ray tracing, the power of the PC. Now comes all the modders, and someone has actually modded Kingpin to be Spider-Man, so you can swing around the city and fight crime as Kingpin, which is great.
I love PC modders.
Oh yeah, you gotta love them. Excuse me, because they love to do fun stuff. What else happened? There's have you seen this trailer yet for it's a game called the Entropy Center?
Yes, it is on my list. I've seen it. It looks awesome.
I'm holding out. I'll probably play it, but it's for me. It's kind of like it's what happens when Valve doesn't take the steps to make a game off of a great property, in my opinion. So it's someone has made a time travel Portal game because Valve hasn't done anything with Portal since Portal 2. Unfortunately, they've been re-releasing it. People have been making fan games, and now here comes a game where it's pretty much Portal, but time travel, and you're trying to save Earth. Ultimately, there's a lot of story with it. Your gun talks to you as you control time reverse. So like there's a broken bridge. You can shoot it with your gun, and the bridge will be back to where it was however long ago. Kind of fix it. I mean, and it's not the first time travel game we've had with like an item, a gun or some sort of power, but this is interesting to see it. It looks good. I'll try it, but I'm also, go ahead.
I like the humor. I like the art aspect of it. I want to go on record as saying I am 100% in favor of talking guns.
Oh yeah.
I think they're great. I think every game should have them.
Yes.
I ran out and got Skippy in Cyberpunk as soon as I could.
I love Skippy.
He was my friend for a lot of my journey. Yeah. Skippy was great.
Skippy. And then did you ever get that Borderlands? You ever play Borderlands 2, I think it was?
I did.
It had the one that would just scream as you fire. It just goes,
oh, yeah.
No, yeah. I'd like a sentient gun is, I think, the next best thing to having a side character with you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then Skippy was great because he would do his bomb beat bomb beat dom. Yeah. I'm like, every time he does it is like the first time. It never gets old. Just keep on doing that.
Right. It's like, oh, we've got Rihanna in here and it's perfect. So let's keep that up.
I got to ask you a question. So you use Skippy in Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Did you go lethal mode with Skippy or passive mode?
Lethal.
So you killed or you incapacitated 50 people first so that you could make him permanently lethal.
Yep.
Yeah, I did the same. And then you didn't give him back to his owner. You kept him?
I gave him back.
Eventually he gets underpowered, but it's nice early in the game to be able to fire up in the air and then hit people in the head from behind cover.
Yes, no, that's why I love the smart guns in that game. And I've been and finally we have the updated patch, and I just need to carve out a month so I can sit down and go through the story again, because I played it through when it first came out. I had a PlayStation 5 and was able to play it without any major bugs or crashes to get through it, and I really enjoyed it. But I've been waiting for the final next gen updates that came out I guess 6 months ago at this point. Finally, after
I played that
2 years.
Yeah. I played that on PC. Started the game over again, and had a great time with it. I'm done with Cyberpunk. I'm not going to go back to that world, very likely.
Yeah, I've been interested. It's funny how there's no DLC, besides like story-wise DLC been put out.
Oh, those poor developers! I got that game on day one. I mean, I got the top level edition. I mean, I was so excited about it and so disappointed. Yeah. And but then I left it and came back, a year later, and it was great. It was great. Yeah, and they fixed everything, mostly. Yeah, that does happen. I remember one of the first things, it was like I was a corporate, so as soon as I got out of the corporate area and went to like a lounge, it was all right before they went to the montage of getting into the main game, like someone was T-posing. I was like, really? Why is there a person T-posing? You know when I quit? When I quit the first time was when I was out in the wasteland and I was standing outside this like dilapidated gas station. There were piles of trash everywhere. And I called it was either my car or my motorcycle. I think it was my car. I called my car, and the box around the car clipped onto a piece of garbage that was sitting on the road, which, you know, if it was real, it would have just knocked the garbage away. But instead, the car exploded because it was going too fast, and this little piece of garbage just like wrecked the car. And I'm standing out there with my car destroyed.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'll come back to this game when they get these fixed, please.
Yeah, no, that would happen occasionally with
those poor devs.
Well, that and just the whole crowd reaction just pulled it. Like, I didn't even care about people or interacting with the city when like you shoot your gun, like, oh gosh, and everyone ducks. It's supposed to be a lot better now. So that's
creepy. I spent more hours watching YouTube videos of Cyberpunk bugs than I did playing Cyberpunk. They were hilarious. Hilarious. The stuff you can do.
Oh man. Let's see what else we got here. So there was a Kickstarter. You're gonna love this because of your naysay on the crypto. There was a game that has gone bust. A Kickstarter crypto game goes bust because it can't refund the backers. And to their explanation, they say the truth
put all their money in crypto.
Well, yeah, the truth is that the cost of development is high, and there was a lot of bumps in our way to this moment. This is a quote from the Kotaku article. Since we started the journey in 2020, the economic landscape has changed dramatically, both generally and specifically for cryptocurrency, and we're not confident in the current market. We learned we leaned into the crypto market and expanded rapidly off the back of the positive interest. When the crash came, we ended up heavily exposed, too short of runway. So what this tells me is that I would, in the space of cryptocurrency, I am not necessarily a OG veteran, but I am experienced because it's so volatile and things change. I've been in it enough to experience a lot of the ups and downs and kind of like made a full cycle or so. So, you know, I'm experienced, but I'm not like almighty. I'm the best person to come talk to. These people were very inexperienced, and they probably they loved games, and they like, let's see what we can do with crypto. And they had, if they were smart, they wouldn't have had all their funds in cryptocurrency. That's the first mistake.
Is that what they did? They took their Kickstarter funds and put them in crypto?
Yeah, because this was a game that was supposed to run off of crypto and give crypto
that's what I understand. It's two separate things. Make your game and put the assets on the blockchain or whatever.
Yeah.
But to take your Kickstarter funds that's supposed to fund your development team and put them in crypto, that seems like fraud, actually. I mean, I don't see why the two. You can still make a crypto game that has crypto.
They were trying to get the cash and then make it expand. So if you threw it into, you know, some of it in the Bitcoin, so okay, it goes up with the Bitcoin. But then if you put it in something that's supposed to,
they took it to the casino and they lost.
They did because they were trying to put it into a yielding. I don't know what coin, but they were putting in something that was supposed to yield.
You can't take Kickstarter money and go, hey, give me this money, I'm going to make a game, and to pay for it, I'm going to go to the casino, and I'm going to win and double my money and come back. I don't know. Shysters, man.
Look,
these people.
You're not supposed to, but they thought, well, they put it on the wrong ponies, and in the wrong, you know, they took it to a casino, and they were probably trying to think that, well, we can yield, you know, 5% of our money off of this token, and therefore we really don't spend that much money. And it was just really bad judgment. They shouldn't have had any investment money in crypto for their project. If they got profit, then that's when you put it into the crypto, because that's your decision as your company, but not when it's the money to make said game. Because they raised, and I quote, how much money they got?
500,000. Yeah, 500,000.
Well, let's see. Is that what it's 500,000? They had their $500,000, and they made it up to 800,000. It looks like, because they unlocked a certain feature in their tier structure here. So they had plenty of money, and then they just flushed it down the toilet. And I watched the trailer for it. It seemed like a cool idea, but the ultimate thing is that there was just someone misuse of funds, and that's their fault. Just like with any Kickstarter, if you're not careful with who you invest with, then it is what it is. So that sucks on many levels. And one big twist I saw this week is that Death Stranding was coming to PC Game Pass. That's surprising because that was such a big flagship game for just PlayStation only for so long, and then it did come out to PC. But to see it come on to Game Pass, I know Kojima is doing Kojima and Kojima Productions, who made the game. They're dealing with Microsoft too, because they're trying to expand. It's not like Sony owns him, but it makes sense that he cut a deal to some extent that this game could be put on there. So it's very weird to see the console wars expand into this, you could say.
I mean, think about the people that are going to experience Death Stranding that never would have because of Game Pass and because of Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and most of those people are going to not get through the first 2 missions.
Yeah.
I mean, have you played it?
No, and I'm not going to.
Yeah.
It's too self-indulgent for me.
Really?
And I don't know. It seems like it appeals to kind of a niche. You played it and you liked it?
Yes, I loved it, but it's also a game that it's really hard to... It doesn't have replayability because it's a journey, it's a mystery. You do it, you feel the pain and the anguish of having to do all the traveling and delivering of stuff, and you build your own infrastructure, and it's a great thing because you probably like that because optimizing your travel and delivery, and that's really fun. And then when you're done, you're like, okay, that's great. But it's like I don't have the feel or need to go back into it yet, and it's been like 2 years, almost 3 at this point. So I enjoyed it. It's an experience.
I wish there was a demo where I could just let's just play that part of it. And I know being a Kojima game, there's going to be long, unskippable cutscenes and story beats that make no sense.
Yep.
And then just weird stuff with Daryl in the shower. Yep. And I don't know. I just want to play the game part of the game.
Well, maybe you just need to skip all the cutscenes to get right into it, and then you see how you like it. It has to be like a couple missions in before you're like, oh.
We'll see. If we go through another gaming desert, I'm pretty occupied with my 2 games right now.
Yes. And
so we'll see.
And next week, we get an update for our Aliens Fire team.
Oh, yeah.
So we're supposed to get new level content, so that'll be fun. Anyway.
Yeah, good.
So there you go. Death Stranding on PC for you Game Pass people. Try it. I like the story. Very beautiful. Very well animated. It's video games as art, most definitely, but it's not for everybody.
Well, speaking of beautiful, this deal with Mark Zuckerberg and their demo of their metaverse Horizon Worlds, it's just, I mean, all you can do is laugh. It's just so strange. $10 billion?
Yeah.
Is that how much they've spent so far?
That would not surprise me. I'm going to open up that
and
article
Zuckerberg
too.
With his dead eyes. I mean, who?
Oh God, that's just horrible. It looks like a horrible nightmarish Pinocchio.
Why?
Or some sort of,
why does Mark Zuckerberg have to be the character? Dude, we can't relate to you, and don't do that. Show regular people using it. It's just
right.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought this was or his marketing team was like, let's put him on the face of it. Unless they're just trying to get people to be, angry and mad. It looks like it's going to be a murder VR character in a horror movie coming up. Zuck.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody I think my favorite Twitter comment was that it looks like Animal Crossing, but Mark Zuckerberg is hunting you. Was the joke.
Okay, it's just horrifying. Y'all have to take a look at it. It's
interesting, and I think let's say we're 5 years away, but it may be a little bit longer. We're 5 years away from being able to capture our facial expressions. I mean, you and I are doing video today so we can see each other's faces a little bit better. And if we're in the metaverse, we could do the same thing if the technology can replicate, my facial expressions well enough, and we could be in a true virtual world. That's pretty interesting, but the tech's not there yet. Just not.
No. Well, it depends. Your iPhone does a pretty good job. If you've got an iPhone, it tracks your face. It's got the facial recognition. It's there.
Yeah.
It's just not maybe cost efficient, or at least how do you translate that to the Oculus without some other weird device? So it would have to have cameras underneath.
Well,
underneath right where
you
the
need
visor
to capture
is.
all those. You got to capture all those subtle clues that human beings are have evolved over millennia to communicate with each other. You got to capture all that and transmit it.
But there's that program VR Chat, which is apparently done well in the metaverse on the Oculus, that got clamped down. We talked about it before. That people have enjoyed using that. And so however they're able to emote in that, whether it's pressing a button. And I think that might be just how we have to do it until we have the facial recognition tools. But yes, I agree. You need that facial thing. Just like when you've got a text message, sometimes an emoji can help straighten out what the tone is. Because it could be right. Like, I'm saying this with a smile. I'm saying this because I'm mad. Or it's just like how commas save lives. Let's eat, Grandma, versus let's eat, Grandma. Oh, Zuckerberg. Zuckerberger.
Our last story here is something I am personally very excited about, and that is Unknown Worlds, the maker of Subnautica, is going to reveal a new game at Gamescom this week, and I can't wait. I can't wait. Subnautica is such a good game. I mean, it's a high quality game, and it's right up my alley. It's my type of game. So, man, I don't know.
What do you think it's going to be?
This company. Oh, I have no idea. I would imagine they're going to play on the success of their other games.
Subnautica 3?
Yeah, I mean, I would play a Subnautica 3.
I don't know.
I'd pay for it. Early release.
$10 says it's going to be space. I mean, technically, Subnautica is science fiction in quote unquote space, but this is going to be a space thing. It's going to try to go after that crowd that doesn't get Starfield yet, or will get Starfield. It's like here, Starfield Light or better. It might be better than Starfield.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So we'll see. We'll be talking about it next week. It's Tuesday, August 23rd.
Yep. That's when they're announcing it, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's so close. It's just a few days away from the time of this recording. Okay, so you want to talk about the games we've been playing?
Yeah. Talk to me.
All right. Have you heard of Papers, Please?
I have. I have not played it.
Oh.
But I'm familiar with it.
That is a game that's been plaguing me. Just because I keep seeing it in reviews or it's been referred to. It's very simplistic. Just think of Oregon Trail graphics, but also it's a game that you are a border patrol pretty much for this made up country that's very much a dystopia. I like to say it's like a fascist, kind of like communist East Germany / Nazi Germany. But it takes place in the 80s, so it's definitely, Berlin Wall type of thing. So you're there, you're trying to make sure people don't come in, they're not supposed to come in. It starts off each day you go to work, and you have new rules as people come in with their passports. So you only let people of our country in. So you say you have a little passport stamper. You say accept or deny, accept and deny. And then the more rules get put into place, you show discrepancies. You're supposed to point out things. So you get an ID card. Make sure the dates are correct. Like, oh, yours passport's expired. So on top of this, the morality comes in, and it doesn't really force your hand either way. You, as a player, have the choice to do the moral thing and let say this woman coming in saying, I have to see my son. I haven't seen him in like years. Oh my gosh. And you see that like her passport expired by just like 2 days. So it's your job to let her in or not. And this is all after like there was just a terrorist attack at the border. So, you know, like you don't want to get in trouble. And every time you make a mistake, you get a little printout slip saying you have a discrepancy, no penalty, because they will take away your daily wages. And at the end of the day, depending on how many people you let in, depends on how much money you make. And you need that money for your rent, your food, your heat, and medicine, in case you have people in your family get sick. Because guess how many people are in your family? A lot. You have your wife, you have your son, you have a grandfather, and then like an uncle or grandmother. And so like all these people that rely on you, the only person working. So it gets pretty tough.
And do they all sleep on one bed?
Probably. I mean, it's
with the grandma and grandpa on either side.
Yeah, it's some place. It's a building that was given to you by the government because you're a government worker, and so
you can take.
Go ahead.
You can take bribes. You take bribes from people.
Yes, there are. At one point, I was offered bribes from people or other things, and there's like some secret organizations asking for your help. There's a spy that asks you for help. There's people who are like, here, don't let so-and-so in because they're going to beat me. They're abusive. Don't let them in the country. But then they'll come up to you with like all the proper passport information. So it's like, you know, do your job, let them in, or try to be a nice person and figure out a reason to not let them in. Excuse me, everybody. I just sneezed. Not at the mic, though. So it's interesting. And as I'm playing it, I'm like, this is honestly should be used in high schools and colleges as a teaching tool and social experiment for just, you know, talking about fascism, talking about dystopian societies. You could use it in science fiction. You could use it in social studies history, just like how the Oregon Trail was a game I played when we were growing up, because, you know, it's supposed to teach about the Oregon Trail. But this is very much a teaching tool, and I would almost say that every school should talk about using it. And there's a way to keep the nudity out, and it's got some cursing, violence. But, you know, it's history. It is art, and it's reflecting how our history has been and how we should learn from it. But also, from a social experiment, is seeing how many kids were true, you know, sticking to the law, and how many people actually started bending the morals, and how many people went in between. I would be curious to see what this would be like.
Got an 85% on Metacritic.
Yeah, it's highly recommended, and you can play it on your iPad, your iPhone now. I've been playing on my Mac through Steam, and I'll be actually posting my video playthroughs of it soon. So I'm excited. Very,
cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
And then just for fun, because I haven't done it before, and it's just I've been, I guess, needing to play a first-person shooter for a while. I started playing, because I never did it before, the Wolfenstein from 2014. I think it was like New World Order or New Order, I think this was called. It got good reviews when it came out. I just never picked it up because, I mean, I've played the original Wolfenstein. I played like back to Castle Wolfenstein on the PlayStation 2, which was kind of creepy, and I loved that a lot. But I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It feels kind of confined compared to other games where it doesn't feel like a big world. I mean, that's not too bad. And sometimes I need just like a smaller space to kill some evil Nazis of a fake future. And I'm enjoying it. Have you ever played it?
I have. Yeah. Long ago.
And you liked it?
It's a game very much of its time. Oh yeah. It was a great game. It's not, you know, I don't think it's held up well. Those games have evolved quite a bit.
From 2014
Good
one.
Story.
Yeah. I hear how New Colossus, the sequel, was actually a bit better, and so that's on my queue to play after this one, because this one was actually part of my PlayStation Plus membership. So I was able to, like, oh, this is free. Let me just download and play it. And then I just spent $8 on the New Colossus because it was on sale. So I'm like, all right, well, here we go. I got some games to play in my backlog for a while until what am I looking forward to now? I'm trying to think. Well, it won't be I don't know if I'm going to do Last of Us Part 1 anymore. I think I've mentioned that before.
Really?
That comes out in September. Yeah. What I'm probably going to do is wait for it. Maybe it'll go on sale as it gets closer, and I'm going to do a big playthrough of that and the second one right before the HBO show comes out. That's probably what I'm going to do. Gear up for that. So I'll have to wait for the announcement of the HBO show before I play through those games again.
Now that would be fun.
Yeah.
As a refresher.
Mm-hmm. Just to compare and contrast or get you into that world if you haven't ever played those games or watched someone else play them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been doing this week, game-wise.
Well, I have been going back and forth between the two games that came out the week before, which is Cult of the Lamb and Farthest Frontier. And like I said, I didn't get a whole lot of time to play this week. So I've been kind of splitting time, and it kind of works like I'll play Cult of the Lamb, and then, I'll kind of run out of time, or I'll play Farthest Frontier, and then just like get stuck. And that's what happened this morning is I got stuck on something, and then I'll just I'm done with this for now, and I'll go take a break, go outside, and then I'll start thinking, well, I wonder if I laid my farms out, differently. I wonder if I had more foraging huts. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go back and re-roll my world. You can re-roll the map and get a new map. And right before we started, I re-rolled my map, and I got I got a perfectly fertile farming area right next to water and right next to a sand pit, and you can use the sand to make your ground more fertile. And that's right next to an iron ore deposit. So I was like, I just found utopia. So now I got to start my village over for the fourth time. This I'm going to have a game guide up while I'm doing it because I found a really great farm layout that I'm going to use. That's how I love to play these games. So,
make it efficient.
I'm having a great time with those.
Well, good. And Cult of the Lamb, that's where you're the lamb and you have a cult.
Yeah.
And what isn't it got some roguelike elements to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally Animal Crossing with roguelike. So you got a village, and you go to the village, and all your little followers are there, and you go, hey, everyone get in the temple, we're going to do a sermon. You preach to them, and their faith goes up a little bit, and I sacrifice somebody for the first time.
Ooh, no.
And everybody's faith went up a little bit. I unlocked, they have a mini game called Knucklebone that I unlocked, and then they have a fishing mechanic, so I've got to catch 2 more fish and give it to this guy, and I get a reward, and then I can take those things into the dungeon area, and I get more and more powerful when I'm in the dungeon. So, that game checks a lot of boxes for me.
I want to play it, but I'm trying to figure out what system to play it on because I want to make sure on the Switch graphics okay. Are they better on the? I guess something else. Yeah,
well. It's completely playable on Switch. Do you play your Switch docked or handheld most of the time?
It depends. So, like before bed, I'll sometimes play something in bed.
You go back and forth,
but then I want to sit down and dock it because I have it set up in our living room. So if the kids are running around doing their thing, I just want to be in an area to hear them. And as I chill, I want to do that because I don't want to get necessarily heavily involved in a Wolfenstein game in front of all of them. I want to play something that's like, okay, even though it's Cult of the Lamb is not a kid's game, but I can at least, it's just strawberry jam. It's fine, kids. The blood sacrifice is fine.
I would not have bought it on if there was no such thing as a Steam Deck. I would definitely have bought it on Switch because it's the perfect game to the dungeon runs are about 10 minutes. They're short, and then you can fiddle with your little village, and so it's a great game for taking on the back porch, and being able to move back and forth to the big screen is really nice. I've got the Steam Deck pre-ordered, so I'll be able to switch over, but now I have 2 games going on, and I did kind of want to play on the back porch yesterday, and I kind of didn't want to because I've got my real village up here on the PC. So I think the Switch is great. You can get it on PlayStation too. So
I know. Well, that's the thing.
You just can't take it outside with you,
right? I can't take it around with me. I can't go to the bedroom with me. If I have to go to the water closet and make a deposit that takes a while, that let me take my time to help with my cult, because that's what I like about the Switch is until I get a Steam Deck is that it's portable and it's kind of I can play as I want and just more casually. And anyway, that's good. I'll see if there's a sale and I'll probably pick it up then, and then hopefully not get too obsessed about it because that's what happens. I'll get too laser focused and I must feed my cult. Well, good. I'm glad you got some gaming in, even though with the busy week. And that sounds like really good games, especially that Farthest Frontier. Just sounds.
Yeah, and I'm traveling this week, so I'm going to take my Switch with me, and I may work on my other village on Cult of the Lamb.
Well, there we go. Take things you learned from your other playthrough, and it's like you're playing a second playthrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Have you seen any good shows, or you've been so busy that you haven't actually watched any TV yet either?
We didn't watch any TV this week.
Oh, no.
My daughter's actually, she starts school next week, and so she wanted to watch some shows. We've been watching Cake Wars.
Cake Wars.
That's what we're watching. Old episodes of Cake Wars, yeah.
Oh,
which made me hungry for cake, and so we made a cake together, so that was great. But when school starts, I think we may start watching shows again because the kids are going to want their free time at night.
Yes. Free time and homework and everything else like that. Well, She-Hulk.
Yeah, what about you?
She-Hulk premiered this past week.
Tell me.
I am loving it so far.
Really?
Not to be, I would say that I'm a big Marvel fan, but I know also when it's getting too cheesy, made for TV feel, like, oh, this looks like TV. And that's a big turnoff. We've talked about this before. Like, it just feels like that feels too TV-like versus this feels like a good production. They put some money into it. I feel like the CG that they had in the trailers leading up to it was actually like a pre-render, an early render compared to what's actually in the show. Because there's a few times with She-Hulk when she was transformed, it was like, wait, is this her? Is this real? They did really good with the facial animations and stuff. Because sorry about that. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to TV production that, okay, they didn't get all the motion or nuance in the motion capturing. You can kind of tell in some shows, and it does, if you're looking for it, it triggers you if you've seen it before, you've watched enough. You can kind of see it sometimes, but it's really hard to tell. It's computer animation, but it's good computer animation, if you know what I'm saying. So it's not distracting.
Yeah.
And for the first episode, they did it right. Kind of covering the whole Hulk thing instead of like piecing it together. Like Moon Knight was great. It was a mystery, but it kind of went back and forth a lot, and less of the Moon Knight itself and a lot more of the mystery going into it. And I appreciated that. We're like, all right, I came to see She-Hulk, and if I don't get to see like any or a little bit of a She-Hulk, then I'm kind of disappointed. So what also this means is probably the next few episodes you don't see as much Hulk, but it's also supposed to be about her, the character. I forget the actual, her real name, the She-Hulk's real name. But it's going to be more about her law stuff, which I'm excited about because I was a big fan of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, back when it first showed on Adult Swim. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, is this going to be like that, but in the Marvel universe? And even before it even premiered, I was saying it's going to be like Ally McBeal, but Marvel. And then I saw someone else review it online as Ally McBeal, possibly Ally McBeal, but Marvel. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm down with that because I grew up on Ally McBeal and I thought it was funny. So I'm excited to see more.
So this is a comedy.
Yes.
This is a comedy?
Yeah, it's comedy.
Okay.
It's not one of the serious dramas that we've been seeing here. So it's got some light stuff. She breaks the fourth wall, so she has that thing going for her. And apparently she does it in the comics. So it's kind of fun to do that. If you've been missing Deadpool, it's like, oh, yay, another Marvel character that breaks the fourth wall. And also I'm excited to see Daredevil show up in it, Matt Murdock. So
yeah, we're going to watch it today. So we'll compare notes next week. Yeah,
definitely. No, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll pretty good. Okay. So we're going to get to our topic. Do you think video games are too expensive?
Yes. I mean, how can I not say yes to that?
Yes. So $70.
They're creeping. They're creeping. Yeah. Now 70 is the baseline. They're creeping up and creeping up.
Right. So
I would like them to be less expensive.
Well, because it used to be 60 for new games for the longest time.
It used to be 50.
Well, it used to be 50, and then it used to be 60, and now it's 70 for next gen. For any one Xbox Series S, X, and then also PlayStation 5. But anything on PlayStation 4 and below, it's like 60. And then stupid Switch titles, like Nintendo properties, are $60. Even ones that have been out for years since launch are still $60. And so the question arises, how much should a game be priced and how much is its value? And there was a article written by John Walker on Kotaku entitled "How to Calculate a Game's True Value from Its Price and Length." Now, we're not going to read through the entire analysis. I think everyone should take 2 seconds to kind of read through it. And it brought up some interesting points, and so we were going to talk about that today. Because in general thought, and this is how I always thought, and with movies and music, you can even, it's hard to do it with book, because book's a little bit different, because book you have to pick up and read yourself, compared to like you go to the movie theater and you watch a movie. You have how much you're paying for said thing, and how many hours of entertainment are you getting out of it. So like, music, the CD, you spend $13, you get like 30 minutes or 40 minutes of music out of it, right? And then you go see a movie, or you buy for $24.99, you buy the Blu-ray of a movie. It's a 3-hour movie, okay. So 3 hours is that? Usually an hour and 30-minute movie is about the same price too. So what's the difference there? A video game, we're paying $70. There's some games that are 8 hours long for $70. There are some games that are 50 hours or 100 hours more for $70. So, we're like, okay, that's a good value. Even if at $8 for $70, 8 hours for a $70 game can feel kind of like you get stilted, even though that's still a way better number than other things. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's obviously, and he does get into this nuance in the article. It's obviously a lot more than just time divided by money. There's so many other things in there. And this goes back to, I think, one of our very early discussions around, there may be more, but is it as good a content? And when I say that $70 is too much for a game, it's not that simple, right? Like, what am I getting for the $70? I honestly, I feel a little bit cheated by Horizon Forbidden West, because the first one was so tight and it was so compact and it was so good. And like the value per minute that's ticking by in my mind is like, this is so good. This is so good. And then the next one was like, the value per minute was about half. So I wasn't as engaged. I'm like, I'm playing it, but it's not as good, but there's more of it to get through. And does that mean they should charge less for it? No, to me, it means they should have made less game. Yeah,
they should have made less game. The Grand Theft Auto 5 got re-released on PlayStation 5 and also PlayStation or Xbox Series X. And those came out on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And it's like, and they're still, I think they still charge, what was it, $40 or $50 when they first came out?
Oh yeah.
On this news gen. I mean, it's still $40. Maybe they made it 30, that would make more sense, but they're still trying to charge a big chunk. For just up-resing graphics. You have the bone structure, you up-res the graphics. And then even with the Last of Us Part 1 remaster, $70. I mean, that's been one of the more recent sticklers here. It's like, what? Why are you charging us $70 for something you just upgraded the graphics? And I keep seeing they keep pushing out like little short clips of here's what this scene looked like in the original and here's what it looks like now. And I'm like, meh. I mean, what I hope, and it won't be, I don't think anyone will know until it gets released, is if the gameplay is like the same as it was in the first one, it would suck. But if it was the gameplay that was used in the Part 2, makes sense. That would make a remake. But we won't know until September. Anyway, so those are plenty of examples. The big epitomal point of this article about calculating cost and value is game length. Here's the formula, as Mr. Krabs would say, the formula. Game length over price. Makes sense, but here's what it should be. Game length over price times the number of employees at the developer. So, and that kind of makes sense.
Remind me why he used the number of developers as, was that supposed to scale with the quality of the game? I think it was.
Let's see. I'm skimming through it to see if I can grab it real quick.
as a recognition of the greater quality that comes from AAA development. Yeah, so what he's saying is the more people that worked on the game, the greater quality that the game. So he's trying to quantify quality.
Gotcha. Yeah, so
they
you
don't
have more
always scale that way, but
right.
Okay, I can see that.
Like
there's definitely a quality aspect to it.
Yeah, like an indie developer releases a $2 game on Xbox or PlayStation Network, and you're like, okay, you can tell that it's not a AAA game.
Yeah.
So some one person probably made it, so it's going to be hit or miss or be bad. Then you have like Vampire Survivor. That was what, $5?
Yeah.
Made by, it was one person, wasn't it? Or just a small
one guy,
team? Yeah,
and then
it's amazing.
He got 40 hours out of me,
Yeah.
Immediately.
This is relevant. So Cult of the Lamb, this is from the article. Cult of the Lamb, after some recent controversy with a lot of Workatai Games journalists screaming and crying about a Steam review that was brave enough to call out its paltry 17-hour runtime at $24 with a 3-man development team that recognizes Cult of the Lamb as a 2.1 game is truly it truly is. So that's its values of worth based off the game length, price, and number of developers. So there's not that many developers that work this game, but it's getting so many good reviews and people are enjoying it. But you don't need a huge studio full of people to make a really good game, because that's what it comes down to. But also, you don't need to justify $70 for a crappy game, even if there are a bunch of people who made it. A good example is when the dreaded GameStop exchange or trade-in, like, sell us your old games. Here's a Call of Duty. Like, say it's last year's Call of Duty, or worse, like last year's Madden. Okay, so they already have a new Madden game out. And these are already just kind of copy and paste, even though they've been trying to sell the new one. Like, we've built it from the ground up and how it works, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. It's like 25 cents. They'll give you a quarter for it. After you paid $70 for the game, you go to trade it in, they'll give you like a quarter or $1. So that kind of shows you the real value, because it's like there's got so many copies of it, because, you play it. But then also, it's who wants to play it? You can buy a new copy of it at half the price after a year, or 2 years later, it'll be, probably slashed another quarter or another half. While there's some games, after 5 or 6 years, it's still the same original price it was when it came out. Which is justified, but at the same time, I feel like as time goes, I think time is another factor that needs to be put into this equation. Is that I don't know exactly where number wise, but it should be, depending on how many years it's been out, should be reduced in price.
You would think, but the value of something is what people are willing to pay for it, right? I mean, if they did a remaster of BioShock, I'd pay full price for it.
Yeah, and Unreal.
If it was a remaster, it had to be upgraded quite a bit, but I'd pay full price for it.
Yeah.
I'd love to re-experience that with new textures and graphics.
Well, yeah, it's just like Resident Evil 4 is getting a remake. Comes out next spring, and that's been republished on all sorts of platforms over its long lifespan. At this point, it's like a teenager, and it's going to probably be it's probably going to be a $40 price point. I would be surprised if it was full like $70, but it's probably going to be $40 like the other titles have been. But I think it'll be worth it. But I know the game's going to be cut down lengthwise compared to its original version, I imagine, and there's been so many more developers on it.
Games have gotten so big and diverse now that I wish there was a different rating system. Like, I like survival crafting, you like story-driven games, I like the open world mechanic. I almost want to see a game rated on about 5 to 10 different dimensions. Like, this game take Cult of the Lamb. This game has a city building mechanic in it, and it's got a roguelike mechanic in it. Well, rate each one.
Right.
And because I like those two elements, I can see, that's going to be like their roguelike mechanic does not satisfy the people that like Hades. It's not hardcore enough. It's too easy for them. So like roguelike, maybe the roguelike's a 6 out of 10, but the city builder is a 9 out of 10. And maybe, I don't know, the art style is just adorable. And then there's like the overall polish of the game. Very, very polished, very tight game. So I don't know. That's how I think about games. And I wish more people would think about them like that, because just a number doesn't tell me as much anymore about whether or not I'm going to like a game, how long I'm going to spend playing it. I mean, look at Captain of Industry. I want to say it was maybe $30. Let's say it certainly wasn't 70, and I've spent over 200 hours in that game. Yeah, because they got factory management and city building so good. They got it so right. It got all that time out of me, but it's not going to appeal to a lot of people. No, it's a niche.
Yeah, it's very niche, but
a niche genre.
And then I guess what comes out of it. I don't know if we should open up the can of worms of adding DLC and post like well, here's the game, but also if you spend another $10 you can get this extra level that you could have had. It's not even DLC a year later, it's a DLC like 2 months later. Like, really, we have to buy the season pass just to keep people working on something, and it's like not even worth it.
Honestly, I think this idea of game length, I don't know when it took hold. I didn't used to think about game length, and then I think Gears of War, one of the Gears of War games came out. Yeah. And there's a big controversy because it was only 8 hours, and it was a $60 or maybe $50 at the time, I don't remember. It was only 8 hours, and so there was this whole thing about, oh gosh, then people started talking about it, and then open world games started making their maps bigger. Yeah. And I feel like there's this trend to make these games longer and longer. And I was curious about this, so I went on, there's a website that tracks how long these games are.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about your graph here you shared.
What is it called?
What, how long to beat?
There's going to be just a bit of a... How long to beat.
I love that place.
That's what it is. They have a database. Yeah. And so I threw some numbers in a spreadsheet. I was just curious because my hunch is that these games have been getting longer and longer, and not just by a little bit, by a lot over time. And so I used Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Halo, and Horizon Zero Dawn. I put them in a spreadsheet. I tracked the version because these are games that have 6 or more versions. So Far Cry 1 through 6, Assassin's Creed 1 through 7, Halo 1 through 6, and then Horizon Zero Dawn I threw in just for comparison. Okay. I wish I could put my graph by year instead of version, because that would be more interesting. Yeah. Because that's really it's the time that they were made that I think dictates that. But if you look at this graph, you can see Assassin's Creed starts at their first version, 15 hours for the first Assassin's Creed. And that was fine. Then balloons to 60 hours for Valhalla. Now, I'm just tracking the main storyline here. I'm not tracking all the additional content. Oh, that's
just the main storyline for Valhalla?
Yeah.
Ugh. Nice.
Yeah. Odyssey.
Odyssey
I
was long.
Played the last 8 hours of Odyssey. Like, I was like, me too. I've got to get this. Like, it was the middle of the pandemic. I had nothing else to do.
Right.
And I was just like, there's more. And there's a whole other island I got to go do. And I would just like, rage through it. And then Valhalla was so good on that first island. And then they're like, oh, here's all of England. And you're like, oh, that doesn't sound. And then it just goes on and it goes on and it feels,
yeah.
And that's just the main storyline. Like I said, that's not even the additional content. Jeez. And then all that stuff starts coming out.
The Halo.
Wow. So
according to your chart, Halo's kept about the right average number, which is good. I think those games shouldn't. A first-person shooter should not be. Well, I mean, depending on the first person, that kind of first-person shooter should not be, more than 10 hours. But something like
even Infinite, which is an open world game, I mean, that's what's been happening, and I respect Halo Infinite for not doing this, is the open world games are going, and my precious Horizon Zero Dawn did it, they're going, people want more value out of these games, so we're going to put more and more, make the maps bigger. We're going to put more side quests in there. We're going to put more crap to do, more mini games, all this stuff, and they just load them in there. Halo Infinite was very tight. There are optional things you can do around the island, but they're unlike the name, they're finite. They're not infinite. Well,
and that's the thing.
You can do them all in 11 hours.
Right. Just because you have more things doesn't mean it's more value to it, too. Because it's quality over quantity. Quality versus quantity. Because for me, if, like in The Witcher 3, if we, my number one game as of now still, the side missions and the stories, it's so well done, well scripted, everything. Yeah. It sucks you in. And so you forget about all this main stuff. And you're like, this is not the actual real game. It's when a side quest feels like that. Like for, that's something when I can remember, this is one of my favorite side quests versus I don't remember all the side things I just did, all the gophers, all the, can you do this for me? Like I was just playing Fallout 4, finally did the Far Harbor DLC, and everyone in the frackin' Far Harbor was like, they're just sitting there just looking at you like, can you do this for me? Oh, I'm so sorry. You go do it for them. Like, thank you. Hey, can you also do this one thing for me? Like they're not helping. They're not lending a hand. It just feels so dead. It's like I'm talking to I don't know. Would have just been fine if it was like a speaker, just telling me to do things, and I'm just like, okay, sure. Yeah. When it's more organic, and that's what feels like it's actually in the world. Forbidden
West memorable quests were on the main quest. I mean, the side stuff was so just cookie cutter, and here they're fetch quests. They're almost all fetch quests, and they replicated them. So there's like, remember the hunters where they're like, oh, we need you to go hunt these things. You're like, cool, you do that. And they're like, now there's 8 more versions of that with 3 hunts each all over the map. Go do all that so you can get this useless piece of junk. I didn't
do that.
You didn't do that one?
Well, see, in Zero Dawn, I did some of the trials, but then in Forbidden West, I skipped all that. Because it felt like, what's going to come out of this? What this seems useless. Now I did.
And in the Horizon Zero Dawn, you finish those trials, you get some awesome weapons.
Oh yeah, and I love doing that.
And there's too many weapons in Forbidden West. There's too many of them.
There's too many. It's like it can be overburdening when it's like, well, here's too many choices. Like I don't know which one I want to take. It just sucks. I like doing the stuff for the Boom sisters or whatever. Those were kind of fun side quests in Forbidden West. I didn't like the second weapon I got from them, but there was a few that felt like, okay, this got some story to it, but whenever a side quest gets really in depth and makes it a really dramatic, like, oh, this is how we used to be. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to help you now. They should be able to.
So I'll throw a little Witcher trivia at you and see what you answer. But there is a side quest that you enter into early on in The Witcher 3, and you forget that there's even a main game. You get so engrossed in this side quest. You know the one I'm talking about?
Are you talking about with the Baron?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's like one of my favorite ones. I mean, that's a story. That's a game in itself.
Yeah. You forget that you've got this larger quest. You're like, what is going on with this Baron? And it just goes on and on. You get this baby. That creepy baby demon thing.
The botchling.
Changeling.
Botchling.
Yeah.
You've got a botchling there, Baron.
And they've got, and the game's full of those.
And you have a choice.
You stumble into this great story going on. Yeah.
Well, and I like how each region has kind of like an overarching story quest to it, but it's not like, okay, you have to do this before you get to this, to do that, to get them to answer this one question. There's a whole
that game's a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. So that's
which makes you wonder how they got Cyberpunk so bad, so wrong.
Yeah,
they did not capture that in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that game has a lot of, a lot of people worked on it. A lot of people worked on it for a long time. They sold it for the right price point. The value is bad because it just sucked. It had bugs, but I think it probably rates better now. They fixed it, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's something about playing as the Witcher because he's got that voice, he's got that Witcher voice,
Yes.
and these things happen to him. And in Cyberpunk, you're playing as yourself. And Johnny Silverhand was just, I don't know if he's supposed to be the Witcher, but he was not as good as the Witcher. The story was not as engrossing, and you're not the character. That's the thing. In The Witcher, you are Geralt.
Well, yeah,
and
but you're supposed to role play and be this is who you are. So there's more of choices, making up out of this. But it's not. But these aren't choices that dramatically change the world either. So it's kind of a fake choice system, fake out on that. But yeah, according to this chart, you have different things like Assassin's Creed, definitely bloated. So they're trying to add more value. These games are trying to add more things to it, but it ends up being such a slog and no one does it. And it's just a bloated price point. And I think they're just trying to get money. Well, here's the real scam. Is the digital version is the same price as a physical version for any game. And they are jumping that middle person of production and shipping and putting up and buying the store. You have to pay whatever much money for the actual store space. So they are getting pure profit on a digital copy. The most they have to pay for is a server system to hold that digital version, whether that's their own personal server or they're out, got a third party contract. So there is the real moneymaker, you could say, in the value of something. So I'm surprised that the players versus the institution of gaming there hasn't been like a whole ruckus of the digital version should be cheaper than the physical copy.
Yeah.
But there usually is. But usually you get sales, though. A digital version of the sale will be happens more often, though.
It is happening more often. And I don't know. I think it's pretty niche to want, to want a physical copy of things now. I mean, that's like collector stuff.
Yeah. Well,
you ought to pay more. They ought to charge more for the physical.
Yeah. Like I'm getting collector's editions of Callisto Protocol and God of War Ragnarok because I want the collector stuff. But I'm actually more prone to getting digital versions because I don't have to keep getting up, putting the disc in, taking it out, hearing it, taking it the time to download. And then, of course, if it loads faster, that's even better benefit because it's loading straight from those solid state drives. And it's like, what's one less thing I have to do?
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. You're installing them now anyway.
Right. You install it, but it's like, oh, hold on. We have to rev up the disk and then try to make sure it's okay. And can we actually run the program?
And that irritates me.
Yeah.
Because when I bought my PlayStation, I bought the only way I could get one was to get the package deal that had what's the 2 games? I got the Demon Souls.
Yeah. And
it's installed on the PlayStation, but when I play it, I have to get up and go put the disc in. And it annoys me.
It is annoying. So back to our article here. We've kind of gone in tangents, and that's perfectly fine. Game length over price times the number of employees versus game length over price. Yeah, I get it. So you want that price for your bigger studios, bigger price. You're going to hopefully get a better product, but that's not always the case, as we've talked about. And you get too much content and bloated, and it's just kind of hitting the mark. And then what's funny is when a video game doesn't do well, and Square Enix has actually been bad about this recently, how they'll say, well, it didn't perform well. And so they try to get rid of it. Like Marvel's Avengers didn't perform well into their expectations, even though it made a lot of money, but they've been really kind of like pushing it down compared to other games.
Didn't sell enough.
It wasn't
a good enough game.
Nope.
Not about the length.
Right, or
just wasn't a good enough game.
Too many microtransactions, from what I understand, in the repetitiveness of the game itself. You think it would have been a smash hit. I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy that came from the same studio way more because that was really good, and I want to play that again. And I would hope that there is a sequel of that, but it sounds like because I don't know, Marvel Avengers didn't do so well that they probably threw that under the bus too, and I maybe never get that. And that was a really and to me, that was a high value game.
It was a high value game, and I just didn't resonate with enough people.
No,
I mean, the voice acting was great in that game. The story was great. The gameplay was great, but I guess people didn't want to play that type of game.
Right.
that squad-based, team-based kind of combat just didn't hit with enough people.
So, and here's another thing, I guess. When it comes to game length and price and number of employees, I feel like there's a lot. When it comes to the credits of a video game, I try to stick around and watch the credits, but I feel like more and more nowadays, it's the credits are having too many mandatory names put on there. Because they're having to give credits to like all the different versions. So here's the one version, and you can easily change the language because it'll be read in that country. On the same disc will be read in this, like a different country or something, or you download the digital version. So all you have to do is change the language output on the text and the audio. But then it's like, okay, here we go. Like Horizon Forbidden West, that's like 30 minutes of credits.
Oh my gosh.
It's to the point where in my playthrough, I was like, all right, I'm going to cut it off at some point because this is too long. Because that last episode was already long for my recording. Kids went over an hour. I'm like, this is too long to just, give everybody the credit. We're just going to credit the voice actors and everybody who was important during the main credits. And there we go. If you want to look at the credits, you can look it up. It's too long. So it's maybe too many people are in the pot there. Because then if you really, one game, $70, divide that amongst all those people, that's no money there. If you sold one copy.
Yeah.
So you for a good game, you do need a AAA game should have a lot of people, but also you don't need a million people. You need good people, and that's probably part of that whole burnout thing. If you have a lot of burnout, or you're dividing up the workload amongst other companies, then there's that. But then we have Elden Ring. Such a good game. So very worth the price. Shouldn't be, if they could charge more, probably should have charged more. Because that's a high replay, high value. Just it marks it has a lot of those good things that it's almost theft of how much you're getting out of it for what you paid, I think.
Sell us some DLC.
Oh, I'm so ready for DLC. I will buy that up in a heartbeat. Not just unless it's cosmetics or new weapons, meh. If it's new story or new bosses, enemies, bring that on. Anyway, well,
yeah,
I think we've wrapped up our main topic for the week.
I think so too. Make good games. Make us good games.
Make us good games. Don't oversell it. Come on, gaming industry.
Don't bulk them up. Don't bulk them up.
Don't bulk them up. And pay your workers fairly. Most definitely. Thanks for listening.
Well, stay focused.
Whoa.
Oh.
Wow. Say what now?
Rewind.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, the managers and the people designing these games need to stay focused. If they wouldn't bloat so much, they wouldn't have to work people so hard. Keep people focused. Keep your focus narrow on making that great thing, and you won't have that problem.
Yeah. Focus on that. Don't hype it up. Don't sell yourself until you get the good game out. I think that's important.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to Pause Button. Like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, and also like and review on the Apple Podcasts.
And send us your thoughts, ideas, and reactions to emails at pausebuttongaming.com. Have a great week. And don't forget, when life gets hectic, sometimes you need to hit the pause button.